Welcome back to Wilson Dittman Sports here on YouTube, where we talk about everything related to Nebraska football. And if you like the content that I'm about to bring you, please hit the like button. And if you do subscribe and comment down below that you subscribed, I will personally respond to every single one of your comments. So please, in advance, if you like the content, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment. So we have a great video coming for you today. We're just going to talk everything going on with Nebraska football, not really recruiting related, but more so related to the roster and my early projections going into next season, or I should say this season. So yeah, and I want to preface, we're not really going to talk about recruiting in this episode. We've talked about it a lot recently, and we will throughout this offseason. I know we have a big recruiting weekend coming up in 2 weeks, but I really want to more so get into, just the guys who are on the team currently and how the team looks and how it's shaping up going into a huge 2023 year. So I just want to really start off, again, talking about each position group, going down the list. We'll start off with quarterback, then go down the list to running back, go down the list to wide receiver, So let's start off with quarterback. And again, I talked about this in the past, but it's going to be Casey Thompson versus Jeff Sims. Okay, this is a quarterback battle. I know a lot of people might say, oh, Casey Thompson's insured it. Some other people are saying that Jeff Sims might be the starter because, guys like Sean Callahan said that. Again, I think at the end of the day that Casey will win, and then that's good because I think Casey's the more skilled quarterback. We've seen that time and time again. Jeff Sims is an athlete, and I think he fits Rule's offense and Satterfield's offense better. However, I think he's by far the worst quarterback intangibly, and I just don't think he gets it done when compared to Casey Thompson if they're going at it in a quarterback battle. But again, that's Casey Thompson 1. Jeff Sims will be the backup. And we look at the rest of the room, okay? We have Logan Smothers, Heinrich Haarberg, Chubba Purdy, and, of course, Richard Torres. So I project at least one of those guys to transfer. And I'm hoping it's Logan. And I've said that before. I hope it's Logan Smothers. Not because I don't like Logan Smothers. I love Logan Smothers. I feel bad for Logan Smothers. That's my thing, right? He's been here for 3 years, and he's never probably going to get an opportunity to start. At this point, I really think I want him to transfer and get an opportunity at somewhere else, to do what he loves and, start. Another guy I kind of hope transfers is Heinrich Haarberg. And I've talked about him before just from the aspect that I do not think he's ever, when we talk about Logan, I don't think he's ever going to start, not because he's not talented enough. I don't think he's ever going to start because there's always going to be guys in front of him. When we talk about Heinrich Haarberg, I don't think he's ever going to start just because I don't think he's ever going to be good enough to start. Now, granted, again, he has all, the physical traits. He's pretty fast. There was a video circulating recently of him dunking. Again, he's been able to dunk since high school. He has a killer arm. He probably has the strongest arm on the team. It's just about the aspect that he struggles with the intangibles. He struggles with progressions. He struggles with, accuracy. And a lot of those things at some point, he's been on the scout team basically his entire career. He's never suited up in a game, not once. We had walk-ons, Matt Masker play above him. He's just never going to play. He's never going to play for us, and I'd like to see him gone. So those are kind of my two. And again, I'm not coming at Heinrich Haarberg. Maybe you can prove me wrong, but this is something that I've kind of held since we got him originally. I didn't like the get when we got Heinrich Haarberg. So, yeah. That's quarterback position. I'd rate it if we're going to – I'll go and we'll rate the positions. So I'll rate just the room in general. I'll rate it a 6 out of 10 because, granted, while it's a kind of a deep room, we don't really have a guy who we think can, maybe go to the NFL. I don't think there's a guy that's in the room at all who I think could go to the NFL or is even close to that level right now. So I'll rate it a 6 out of 10. Going to running back. Let's talk about running backs. I think this running back room is probably the best we've had since 2015, man. This is a good room. This is a really good room. Starting off with running back 1, I believe it's going to be A.J. Allen. I don't really think that needs to be debated too much. I know a lot of people probably think that Anthony Grant's going to start and going to come back. Anthony Grant played really well last season. But, I'm going to pull up his stats really quick here. Anthony Grant, he had 915 yards. So he's, again, very close to 1,000 yards. But, again, he was a guy where he played really good at the start of the year. And as the year went on, the production dipped and dipped and dipped and dipped. I think a lot of that is to do with, Anthony Grant's a really patient running back. And that's not we haven't had guys like that before with his just mindset, who's, patient, wait for the hole, but that hurts you later in the season because he got too patient. And he tried to find the hole, and you're playing teams like Wisconsin and Iowa, and the hole's never going to come. At some point, you just got to find it and just go forward. And he'd bounce out to the left, trying to, go horizontally, never vertically. There were plays where we dump it out to him in the flat in a passing play, and he'd, just stand still trying to dance and get around defender instead of just bulldozing through a guy like he should. So that was frustrating. That's why his production dipped. I think A.J. Allen is the most talented running back we've had on the roster since Amir Abdullah, and I've said that before. And that's why I think A.J. Allen is going to start. However, I am a little bit worried that A.J. Allen is coming off of injury, but I really like A.J. Allen. I think he's going to be running back one. Again, other guys, Ramir Johnson, hopefully we use him right. However, I wouldn't be surprised if Ramir enters the portal. I love Ramir, man, but I wouldn't be surprised if he enters the portal. Gabe Irving, also wouldn't be surprised if he enters the portal. He had a really good true freshman year, been banged ever since. He was a guy, there were rumors that he was going to transfer last offseason, so I wouldn't be surprised because he's going to be buried. Emmett Johnson's a guy that we haven't seen yet, but he was really good in the senior year of high school. He's the second year with the team. And then Quentin Ives, that's kind of like one of the late additions to the class by Matt Rule. He was a late bloomer prospect. I don't know much about him. I guarantee we won't see him though as a true freshman, so we won't have to worry about him. So overall, I'll rate the running back room. I'll rate it 9. I'll rate it 9. It's a really good room. I think we're starting to get to the point where it can be compared to other top tier running back rooms in the Big Ten. As we all know, the Big Ten's pretty stacked when it comes to running back. So let's get to the wideouts. So my starters who I think are going to start, right? Again, let's start off with Marcus Washington, who I think is going to be our wide receiver one. Billy Kemp, right, who's going to be our slot receiver. And I'll go ahead and say it's tough. I think IGC will start. Isaiah Garcia-Constanega. I think he's going to start. That's a really solid starting three, right, at wide receiver. I think Marcus Washington was really underrated last year. There were times in last year, later year, once Trey Palmer started to blow up, and that Marcus Washington was playing better. He was playing better. And granted, Trey Palmer had a lot of the defensive attention, but Marcus Washington was just kind of sneaky consistent throughout the year. And there were games where Trey Palmer would play really good and play like a superstar, and then there were games where Trey Palmer had like 2 catches. Marcus Washington was always pretty consistent. Billy Kemp's a guy who was really good for Virginia throughout his career. Didn't really play well last year, but he's going to start for us. And IGC, only played like 1 game for us last year, but there's not really a guy who I'd say is going to rival him. Like, Alante Brown's off the team right now. Xavier Betts, I'm not high on. I think Xavier Betts is going to struggle, just have the same struggles he did originally, and not find the field. Sean Hardy's a guy who we haven't seen once. Victor Jones, a guy who we haven't seen once. Janarian Bonner, we saw a little bit last year. I like Janarian Bonner. I like him. I really think he's a talented prospect. Again, his second year on the team. And I wouldn't be surprised if he starts, actually. I think he might have a really good spring and fall. But I think he'll just kind of be on the outside. But he'll get reps this year. And then we have a loaded true freshman class, obviously, going down the list. Malachi Coleman, Jaden Doss, Bryce Turner, Jalen Lloyd, Jeremiah Charles, and Demetrius Bell. If I were to say one guy who I think is going to contribute as a true freshman, I'd say Demetrius Bell. I think it goes Demetrius Bell and probably next to be Jaden Doss. Like I don't think Malachi Coleman and Jalen Lloyd are going to contribute as true freshmen. I think they're 2 raw prospects. And I've hinted at that before. So overall wide receiver room, I give it a 6. Again, not really a guy who really has proven themselves extensively on there. We didn't really have that last year, and we ended up having Trey Palmer, but I'd still rate it a 6. Even though it is deep, it's pretty young and a lot of inexperience. When we, if we ever have injury problems in that room, it gets troubling. Let's go to, tight end really quick. I should speed these up a little more, but tight end, this is an F. Like, this is an F grade. This is a 2 out of 10 on the grade. I mean, Chris Hickman, injured his whole career. James Carney, never really played. Fedoni, never played. And he's, damaged goods at this point in his career. A.J. Rollins has played a little bit, played special teams. He's been okay. Didn't really play too much for us to really have an accurate assessment. Arik Gilbert, I mean, Potential floor. He's a boomer bust player, and I think he's going to be a bust, but we'll see. I'm very pessimistic about this tight end room. Chase Androff never played going to second year, and Brody Tegaloa never played going to second year. So that's a 2 out of 10. And I'm kind of disappointed we didn't go after more transfers in that room. O-line. I'll go 3 out of 10. I'll go 3 out of 10. I mean, this is a room that got better last year. It really did. It got better as the year went on. So I'll give it a 4 out of 10, actually. But the fact that we only got one transfer who's been a starter before is concerning. Very concerning. And, again, we almost got Walter Rousey. We almost got Micah Mazuka. We almost got, what was the Rhode Island kid's name? I don't remember. But the guy who was at Rhode Island, now he's at Oregon. So we were close to a couple O-line prospects, but we didn't get any single one of them. We got only one starter, Ben Scott, and then we added on Jacob Hood, who's never started a game. I don't think he's ever played in the game in his career. He's from Georgia. Another guy who's really high ceilings, low floor. So, again, Bryce Benhart's a guy who I don't think should ever start here. Corcoran's a guy who I think needs to be a guard for the rest of his career. He struggles a lot when he's kicked out to tackle. I really liked his play when he was at guard. Ethan Piper's a guy who I used to hate on him, but Ethan Piper actually had a really solid year last year. He was probably one of our better, if not our best. It's weird to say that, O-lineman last year on a consistent basis. Norton Newelli's back. We'll see how that goes. And then Ben Scott's back. Or not back, but we add him, so he'll probably start at tackle. So if I were to, make my projections for our starting 5, I'd say Corcoran, right guard. Or just Corcoran guard. I don't know where they'll play him. Newelli at guard. They'll kick Ethan Piper inside, put him at center. Ben Scott will be at tackle. And then the other tackle will probably be, well, it's going to be Teddy. It'll be Teddy. And then Bryce Benhart will be on the bench as our swing tackle. So, yeah. And then, of course, you got Henry Latufsky, who I really like, as our backup guard. And the room itself, it's lacking a lot of depth. Jacob Hood, of course, never played a game. Justin Jacobs never played a game. They got a bunch of true freshmen. So, that's why it's a 4 out of 10. But I'm trying to keep these going. Let's go to the defense, though. Overall offense, I think it gets a 5 or a 6 out of 10. It lacks, the common theme is that it lacks a lot of depth in a lot of positions, specifically O-line, tight end, and wide receiver. It lacks a lot of depth. So that's not surprising though. That's not surprising. Let's get to D-line. The D-line, I rate it, a 4 to 10, 5 out of 10. Just from the aspect that, again, lacks a lot of depth. We have Stephon Wynn on there, who I think is a good player, but we haven't seen a lot of him. He didn't even start for us last year. Nash, we haven't seen too much of him. Ty has been one of the more disappointing players. Just from a recruiting perspective, we thought he was going to be a stud for us. He's never been even close to it. He, had a really bad year last year, at least for the start of the year, and then came on late. And then after those 3, nobody's played. Roquan Buckley never really played. Elijah Judy never really played for Texas A&M. And then it's a bunch of true freshmen. I mean, lack of depth. It gets a 4 out of 10. It really does. It's not a good unit. It really isn't. Stephon Wynn, again, we're running a 3-3-5, so it's not a big deal that it's a bad unit, but our stars are good. Stephon Wynn's going to start. He's going to probably be our nose. Ty Robinson will start. And then I wouldn't be surprised if Roquan Buckley or Elijah Judy starts. I don't think Nash will start. Going on to linebackers, this linebacker room is a really diverse room. I like it. I love this line. I think this linebacker room is probably my favorite on the team. Or not my favorite room on the team, I should say. And I'll just combine linebacker and edge, like these rooms. So, Luke Reimer, of course, our only senior. I like Luke. Let's talk about Luke and Nick together, like Nick Henrich. Again, they're very similar players, kind of, but the only, weakness they have is that they're just not athletic. They're not built like NFL linebackers, where they get, when they're in the run game and they're trying to run down a running back or run, horizontally, really poor. And that's the one thing they struggle at. And that's why I've constantly said we need to recruit athletic linebackers. And that's why when Rowe got here, he got Eric Fields as a true freshman, who we love Eric Fields. I think Eric Fields can be a baller. But Garrett, let's just go down the list also. Garrett Snodgrass, I think he should leave the team. I don't think he's very good. He's never played. He's a special teams guy. That's all he is. Seth Malcolm never played. Kapai never played. Gobert never played. Well, again, lacking a little depth, but let's get to the outside linebackers. MJ Sherman, really like him, really athletic. Georgia fans said that he was probably the best special teams player. And he got reps for them. Blaise Gunnerson showed some promise throughout last year. Played good in the spring game, so we'll see what he does. Shamari Butler is another guy who's really shown promise. Chief Borders is a guy who's sneakily becoming one of my favorite players just because, social media presence, he's kind of funny on there, but we'll see what he does. He didn't really play for Florida. And then, just some other guys. So I think the linebacker room in general, I'd rate it a 7 or an 8. I think it's like the starters are really solid. Again, common theme, the entire team lacks depth. But we're hoping a lot of these guys who haven't played before step up. And let's end things off with the secondary. And then after we kind of talk about this, we will talk about basically my outlook on next year. So, secondary, I think the secondary is really good. I think it's really good. And this is a deep group. I actually think it's deep. Starting at cornerback, starters are going to be Quentin Newsome and prime Malcolm Hartzog again. I wouldn't be surprised, but I also wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Tamon Linham or Javier Morton get up there. It's a good room. I think it has a lot of depth. Like when you talk about guys like Braxton Clark or Tyreek Johnson, or Omar Brown. The cornerback room specifically has a lot of depth, which I like, and it's old depth. At some point, I kind of wish we got rid of guys like Tyreek Johnson though, because I didn't like Tyreek Johnson when we got him because we got him as like a fourth-year guy from Ohio State who never played, and he hasn't played ever here. But he's nice to have for depth purposes. But the cornerback room I really like, and I really like the true freshman we brought in. Like I think Dwight Boodle might play as a true freshman. I think Ethan Nation might play as a true freshman. So, really good room. I rated 8 out of 10. Going into the safeties, another room where it's, I think it's solid. Like we started off, Marcus Buford's going to start again. And then we have Miles Farmer who might start again too. Deshaun Singleton's a guy who I really like, but never really played. Same with NPG, Noah Pola Gates. NPG probably has to go, man. He has to leave this offseason, I think. But, and then we go down the list. Kobe Brett's the guy's never played. Might need to move on from him. He's a kid out of West Side, third year. Corey Collier, we'll see what he does. Transfer from Florida. Kane Williams, transfer from Alabama. We got him last year. Didn't play at all for us, so kind of a make or break a year for him. But yeah, I mean that room, I'll rate it a 6. It does have depth, but the starters aren't really great. I do think Marcus Buford's a stud, though. I think he's a stud. I think he'll play really good this year. But yeah, so that's the team. And overall, I'm not going to give an overall grade for the team. That's that's stupid. But overall analysis, just breaking down the team for you guys. I think it's a team that has some good starters at positions and has guys who produced before. But really, if we ever get injury problems throughout the year, I think it's really going to hurt the team because a lot of these guys behind the stars are guys with no experience or true freshmen. Especially positions like O-line or tight end or D-line, man. Wow. I mean, they're going to struggle because the depth is not great. And that shouldn't be surprising. That shouldn't be surprising given what Frost did to our team from a roster standpoint. He skirts over. But let's look at our schedule for 2023. Obviously, I'm trying to memorize it at this point in the offseason. But we start off with Minnesota. I hate this game. I hate this game, man. I mean, can we acknowledge the fact that we haven't started off with a home game since 2019? We haven't played a home game. We also have played Big Ten opponents every single year in our opener since 2020 on the road. So Ohio State, 2020, 2021, Illinois, 2022, Northwestern, And now we're going to play Minnesota and Minnesota. And this is it. And I think we're going to lose this game. I really do, because there a lot of things are still happening, a lot of moving parts. It's Merrill's first game. Granted, you know, if there's any time of the year I want to go to Minnesota and play Minnesota, it's the first week of the year. Because not only is the weather freaking nice, but Minnesota is kind of like Iowa from the perspective that they struggle at the start of the year. You know, they lost to Bowling Green 2 years ago. They're a team that they can be caught at the start of the year. However, I'm going to trust Minnesota because Minnesota's produced, and year after year they get it done, the win column. That's why I think we lose the first game. And I might change my opinion. Like none of what I say right now is certain. You know, I might change my opinion as the summer goes, but it's a tough first game, man. Going on to Colorado, we go to Colorado. So we start off with 2 away games, as we all know. I think we win this game. I do. It's going to be a home game atmosphere. You know, last time we went to Bowler, 75% Nebraska fans, probably more. It's going to be the same deal this time, especially if we beat Minnesota. I mean, the crowd's going to be crazy, dude. I think Colorado's they were the worst team in Power 5 last year, for sure. I think we beat them. I also think Deion Sanders is not a great coach. They got a lot of transfers this year, which kind of concerns me. But again, a lot of moving parts for them. They play TCU week 1. They're going to get absolutely walloped. I think we'll beat them pretty. You know, I think we'll beat them. Northern Illinois, that's our home opener. It'll be a tough game. Just from the perspective, that's our first home game. We struggled against Northern Illinois before. We lost to them a couple years ago. So I don't think it'll be a perfect game by any standpoint, but I think we'll win. We play Louisiana Tech the next week. We'll blow them out. We'll feel good about ourselves after kind of struggling against Northern Illinois. So we'll win that game. Then we play Michigan. We'll lose. We'll play at home. We'll lose. We're not going to beat Michigan. Illinois. Now it's a tough game, man. We play Illinois the week after. That is a tough game. I don't really want to say what I think about that game yet because, Illinois loses a lot of players. They lose DeVito, I'm pretty sure. They lose, of course, Chase Brown. But they lose both the Brown brothers. So they lose a lot. They obviously lose Walters. They're defensive coordinators. So that's interesting. I don't want to say whether we win or lose that game, but that's a tough game, and I think we might lose. Then we got a bye week. Then we play Northwestern at home. We're going to beat Northwestern. We're going to beat Northwestern at home, guaranteed. I feel good. I don't want to put out guarantees because you know what happens with guarantees for Nebraska football. It doesn't work out. But I think we'll beat Northwestern. Then we play Purdue at home. Again, that's a tough one. I don't want to say there. That's a tough one. Michigan State next week. Tough one. And that's at Michigan State. But Michigan State's a team that I believe they were 5-7 last year. Were they? Yeah, they were 5-7. So, again, tough. But they're going to make a lot of moves. Usually when Mel Tucker struggles, 1 year he makes a lot of changes for better or worse the next year. So, either we see a really good Michigan State team next year or we see a really bad one. And my bet is that we see a really good one. Kind of similar to the one they had in 2021. Then we go play at home against Maryland. Well, we'll probably beat Maryland. Maryland's a sneaky good team, though. They've made a bowl for consecutive years. I think they have the Tagovailoa brother back at quarterback. Mike Locksley. Mike Locksley's doing an okay job there. And then we have this season with Wisconsin and Iowa back-to-back, as we should. And I don't want to make any predictions about those games. You already know. I don't make predictions about, those guys are 2 of our biggest rivals there. So, interesting schedule. Early prediction win-wise, I'll go 6. It's just safe. I mean, it's not safe. Nothing's safe in Nebraska football. I'm not going to be that guy, though, that predicts 8-9 wins because that's stupid to me. That's stupid to pick 8-9 wins when we haven't seen that out of a Nebraska football team since 2016. That's stupid to predict that, in my opinion. That's the Kool-Aid talk. So I'll go 6 wins. And off the top of my head, I'll just say we beat Colorado, we beat Northern Illinois, we beat Northwestern, we beat Louisiana Tech, we beat maybe Maryland, Illinois. And I'm not saying we don't beat Iowa. I'm not saying we don't beat Wisconsin. I'm just saying those are the wins that I kind of can see. But I could, we could drop one of those games easily. That's what we do. We drop games that we shouldn't. And then we could pick up a game that we shouldn't win, you know, like Michigan State maybe, at Michigan State. So none of those things are locked down, but that's what I could see. You know, I'm going to predict 6 wins. And we'll get more depth in it as the season goes. So very interesting, man. Very interesting. So that's my that's my take. Just, you know, assessing the roster and assessing next year. You know, a lot of people are going to look at the, you know, the win column to kind of assess next year. I'm not going to say I'm not going to do that, but I'm just going to more so assess Rule as a coach. You know, like, what do I see progress throughout the year? Do I see him, you know, changing his offense if things aren't working? Do I see him changing his defense if things aren't working? Do I see just growth from a team basis, right? Do I, you know, see the team working hard every single day? Do I see the team playing like they want to win every single game? Do I, you know, do I see those traits that indicate progression as a team? Because Scott Frost, granted, a lot of people said that same thing for Scott Frost. They were like, oh, let's not look at the win column to assess Scott Frost. But Scott Frost didn't show all those traits I just mentioned, you know, that signify progression. You know, a lot of the same coaching mistakes that Scott Frost made, he continued to make. So we'll see when it comes to Matt Rule, what he does. But man, and one of the reasons why I want to make this video is because I feel like March is a pretty candid time. Like, once we get to the summer, the hype will be flowing, recruiting will be flowing. You know, it's going to get Kool-Aid season, man. And a lot of people are going to come up with all these crazy takes. Does Nebraska have a chance of winning the Big Ten West? And so I think it's important to have this video out now. So when I make a video in the summer where I'm going absolutely nuts and say we're going to win 10 games, that I can look back at this video and say, oh, maybe I should say that. You know, but thank you guys for all for watching. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about the roster? Do you think, you know, the quarterback position is in good hands? Do you think that the O-line position isn't? What do you think about a certain player? What do you think about the season just from a win perspective? What do you think about Matt Rule? Well, just let me know. So again, thank you guys all for watching. I also want to end with this. Just remember, going forward, you know, I think a lot of times when we have a brand new head coach in this, you know, in the offseason, a lot of people love him and kind of don't realize that every single coach is flawed. Right now, Matt Rule looks like a perfect coach because of the fact that Matt Rule hasn't done anything here yet. So for us, he looks perfect, right? He looks like a perfect coach. He's never lost a game. He doesn't have any flaws, but he does. Every coach does. Every coach has flaws. So you got to, you know, remind yourself of his flaws. And we've seen that Baylor, and I'll mention them in coming videos, and I've talked about him before, his flaws as a coach. But just remember, every coach has flaws, and let that ground you a little bit if you want to be grounded by the Kool-Aid, or if you don't want to be grounded by the Kool-Aid, your fandom is your choice, man. So if you want to go nuts and believe everything and think we're going to win 10 games, go for it, man. Or if you want to be super pessimistic and think we're going to win 2 games, go for it. I'm going to say we win 6 as of right now, but that's me. So again, thank you guys all for watching. Have a great Sunday. Have a great rest of your day, and peace out.